Israel claims killing of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar in Gaza. IMF warns of difficult future for global economy. Good afternoon and salam Malaysia Madani. This is World Today. I'm Otto Othman. The Israeli military has claimed its soldiers from the Southern Command have killed Yahya Sinwar, leader of the Hamas group, in an operation in the southern Gaza Strip. However, there was no immediate comment or confirmation from the Hamas group regarding its leader's demise. The Israeli military said Sinwar was allegedly killed in a firefight after being tracked by a drone. It said the dozens of operations carried out over the last year and in recent weeks in the area where he was killed restricted Sinwar's operational movement and led to his assassination. Israeli military spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari claimed that Sinwar was killed after being spotted with two other fighters in the territory's Rafah district. Sinwar in August replaced Hamas former chief Ismail Haniyeh, who was killed in Iran on 31st July. If Israel's claim regarding Sinwar's death is true, it could dial up hostilities in West Asia, where the prospect of an even wider conflict has grown despite Western hopes of a ceasefire. United Nations Human Rights Chief Volker Turk has warned Israel that any large-scale forcible transfer of civilians out of conflict-wrecked North Gaza could constitute a war crime if not done on imperative military grounds. Turk said Israel's evacuation orders appear designed to cut off North Gaza completely from the rest of the territory. He said as bombing and other attacks continue, there are serious concerns about a large-scale forcible transfer of civilians not meeting the requirements of international law for evacuation on imperative military grounds. He noted that forcible transfer of a large part of the population of North Gaza would amount to a war crime. Turk also called on Israel to immediately facilitate the massive influx of humanitarian aid that is needed across all parts of Gaza. The Israeli army has intensified its operations over the past 10 days or so in northern Gaza, where hundreds of thousands of people are trapped in the fighting and where it has become difficult to deliver humanitarian aid. Lebanon's Hezbollah is launching a new phase in its war against Israel, saying it has used precision-guided missiles against troops for the first time. Israel has been pounding South and East Lebanon since all-out war erupted on 23rd September. In Lebanese border villages, the rivals have engaged in close-range combat after Israel launched a ground invasion last month. Hezbollah announced a transition to a new and escalatory phase in the confrontation with Israel, which will be reflected in the developments and events of the coming days. The group said its rocket strikes continue to escalate day by day, with precision-guided ones being deployed for the first time. It also said hundreds of fighters are fully prepared to counter any Israel ground incursion into southern Lebanese villages. The war in Lebanon since late September has left at least 1,418 people dead, though the real death toll is likely higher. President Vladimir Zelenskyy told allies that Ukraine must be in a position of strength before any peace talks with Russia, as he sought EU and NATO support for his victory plan. More than 2.5 years into the war, Kyiv has steadily lost territory in its eastern Donbas region and is under mounting pressure to forge a strategy which it says must start with ramped-up Western support.
Dear leaders, we are ready to put the victory plan on your table and are counting on your support. Ukraine is ready for real diplomacy, but for it, we must be strong. Forcefully imposed truce instead of fair peace never provided security. Nobody is happy when the war is brought back. And our unity, pressure on Russia and strengthening Ukraine are the keys to ending this war in a way that prevents Russia from starting it again.
The Ukrainian leader has traveled to Washington, Paris, Berlin, Rome, and London to promote his initiative, but has yet to gain backing on the specifics of the plan, whose central plea for an immediate invitation to join NATO is widely viewed as unrealistic. Zelensky's blueprint also rejects any territorial concessions and calls for allies to lift restrictions on using donated long-range weapons against Russian military sites. At NATO, Zelenskyy joined the first of 2 days of talks between defense ministers of the 32 member states, which have declared Ukraine to be on an irreversible path to membership without giving a timeline. The United States and Germany have led opposition to immediate entry, believing it would effectively put the alliance at war with nuclear-armed Russia.
So NATO is working with Ukraine, bringing you ever closer to the alliance. And we are also working with other partners to bolster security for us all.
Although Rutte did not directly address Zelensky's victory proposal, some allies gave it a warm welcome. British Defence Secretary John Haley said they want the plan to succeed and they will work with Ukraine. The Kremlin, meanwhile, repeated its warning that Ukraine's plan amounted to an attempt to directly involve NATO in the conflict, warning of heavy consequences. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un called South Korea a foreign and hostile country as he visited troops, adding that the recent destruction of transport links marked an end to an evil relationship. Kim visited the headquarters of the 2nd Corps of the Korean People's Army, where he reviewed defense plans following Pyongyang's recent decision to blow up road and rail links with the South. In his discussions with military commanders, Kim stressed that the army should keep in mind once again the fact that South Korea is a foreign country and an apparent hostile nation. Relations between the two Koreas have deteriorated since Kim in January defined Seoul as his country's principal enemy and said the North was no longer interested in reunification. Kim said cutting the road and rail links with the South means not only the physical closure, but also the end of the evil relationship with Seoul, which persistently lasted century after century, and unreasonable idea of reunification. Yesterday, state media said the North's constitution now defines the South as a hostile state, the first time Pyongyang had confirmed the legal changes called for by Kim earlier this year. Indonesian Minister of Communication and Information Budi Ari Setiadi has highlighted key factors contributing to foreign investors' hesitation to invest in the Republic's data center sector, noting that many prefer to establish facilities in Malaysia, especially in Johor. Citing a Maybank report, he said investments in Johor's data centers, which support artificial intelligence and cloud computing, are projected to reach $3.8 billion this year. Malaysia offers 3 key advantages, namely competitive electricity prices, tax exemptions, and legal certainty, making it a more attractive destination for foreign investors. He stressed the need to improve the Republic's investment climate and reputation to attract foreign investors, advocating for a simpler investment process and stating his goal of reducing the electricity prices for data centers to make them more affordable for operators. Malaysia is rapidly becoming a data center powerhouse in Southeast Asia, driven by rising demand for cloud computing and artificial intelligence. The country has attracted billions in investments from major tech firms such as Google, Nvidia, and Microsoft, particularly in Johor Bahru. China will build on trade agreements and industrial parks to enhance economic and trade cooperation with Vietnam. Spokesperson for China's Ministry of Commerce, He Yadong, emphasized that China is Vietnam's largest trading partner, while Vietnam is China's largest trading partner among the ASEAN nations. The spokesperson said efforts will be made to both explore and pilot the establishment of cross-border economic cooperation zones, expanding cooperation in emerging fields such as information technology, new energy, and digital economy. He said enterprises from the two countries will be supported to make full use of platforms such as the China International Import Expo, the China Import and Export Fair, and the China ASEAN Expo to expand trade of agricultural and aquatic products as well as manufactured industrial products. Measures will also be taken to deepen cooperation related to supply chains and regional economic integration. The annual trade volume between the two nations has exceeded $200 billion for 3 consecutive years. From January to September this year, trade volume between the two countries reached $190.38 billion, up 17.6% year on year. Still ahead, Bangladesh court issues arrest warrant for ex-leader Hasina. New forecasts by the International Monetary Fund point to a difficult future for the global economy, marked by a lackluster medium-term growth, escalating trade tensions, and high levels of debt. However, IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva said much could still be done to boost growth, reduce debt, and build a more resilient economy.
We are in a difficult geopolitical environment. We are all very worried about the expanding conflict in the Middle East and its potential to destabilize regional economies and global oil and gas markets. Its humanitarian impact, alongside the prolonged wars in Ukraine and wars elsewhere, is heartbreaking, and it is harming confidence in the world economy.
She warned the persistent high prices that disproportionately affect the poor and the potential of the escalating West Asia conflict to destabilize regional economies and global commodity markets. Georgieva also expressed concerns over increased military spending affecting the funding available for other priorities, including aid to developing countries. She said rising protectionism and increasing trade restrictions were fracturing the global economy, limiting growth in trade and pouring cold water on an already lukewarm world economy. EU leaders have called for urgent new legislation to increase and speed up migrant returns after a Brussels summit that crystallized a rightward shift in the bloc's rhetoric. The 27 European leaders said their day-long talks saw in-depth discussions on migration, an issue that has shot up the political agenda following hard right gains in several countries. They wrote in summit conclusions that the European Council calls for determined action at all levels to facilitate, increase and speed up returns from the European Union, asking the European Commission to submit new legislation. They added new ways to prevent and counter irregular migration should also be considered, in an apparent reference to controversial proposals to create return centers outside the European Union, which did not get an outright mention.
Today, we see that all those who have no right to stay in the European Union, only 20% of those who have a return decision really are returned to their countries of origin. So we're working to improve this operational work, and we will soon present a new proposal, legislative proposal for that. We had one from 2018, but it is stuck in Parliament and Council, so we will come with a new proposal for returns.
However, divisions remained on the next steps, with no concrete plans laid out in the final text. Some countries poured cold water on the more radical ideas, with von der Leyen admitting that open questions remained on the creation of so-called return hubs, an issue fraught with legal and ethical concerns. A Bangladeshi court has issued an arrest warrant for exiled former leader Sheikh Hasina, who fled to India in August after she was toppled from power by a student-led revolution. Chief Prosecutor of Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal, Muhammad Tajul Islam, said the court has ordered the arrest of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and to produce her in court on 18th November. He said Sheikh Hasina was at the helm of those who committed massacres, killings and crimes against humanity in July to August. The court also issued an arrest warrant for Abdul Qadir, the fugitive former General Secretary of Hasina's Awami League party, as well as 44 others who were not named. Dozens of Hasina's allies were taken into custody after her regime collapsed, accused of culpability in a police crackdown that killed more than 700 people during the unrest that disposed her. Former cabinet ministers and other senior members of her Awami League party have been arrested, and her government's appointees were purged from court and the central bank. Hasina, however, has not been seen in public since fleeing Bangladesh by helicopter. The 77-year-old's last official whereabouts are a military airbase near India's capital, New Delhi. Kenyan Senate has voted to dismiss Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua from office by impeachment on 5 out of 11 charges leveled against him in an unprecedented move that risks pushing the country towards a political crisis. The National Assembly voted last week to impeach Gachagua, who helped President William Ruto win an election 2 years ago, but has been assailed by allies of the president over alleged disloyalty and a series of provocative public comments. 54 out of 67 senators voted to dismiss Gachagua on the first count of gross violation of the Constitution. This makes him the first Kenyan president or deputy president forced from office by impeachment. The process, however, is unlikely to stop there, as Gachagua has filed several petitions challenging the push to oust him. Gachagua, who has denied the allegations, had been due to defend himself against the charges in the Senate ahead of the vote. When he failed to show up, his lawyer, Paul Moite, said the deputy president had been hospitalized with intense chest pains, urging the Senate to pause proceedings. But the Senate declined to do so, prompting Gachagua's legal team to leave the chambers in protest. At least 25 people have died after consuming tainted liquor in India's eastern state of Bihar. Local police have arrested 22 people for their alleged involvement in the sale of tainted liquor in the state, which banned the sale of purchase of liquor in 2016. While 15 deaths were reported from the state's Siwan district, 5 people died in Saran district. Deaths from illegally produced alcohol, known locally as hooch or country liquor, are a regular occurrence in India, where many cannot afford branded spirits. In April last year, 26 people died due to consumption of spurious liquor in Bihar's Motihari district. In December 2022, 71 individuals lost their lives in the Chapra district. In March 2022, 12 people died in Banka district, while in November 2021, as many as 43 people were killed after consuming poisonous liquor in the same state. A suicide bomber blew himself up near a police academy in the Somali capital Mogadishu, killing at least 7 people, including civilians. Officers said the assailant walked into a crowd of people enjoying tea under the shade of a tree before detonating a device at around 3:30 p.m. local time. According to a police statement, 7 people, including police and civilians, were killed in the blast and 6 others were injured. A renowned Somali poet was believed to be among the dead. Police spokesperson was not yet available for comment, and reporters have so far been denied access to the site of the attack. The Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab group claimed responsibility for the bombing in the statement. The group has carried out numerous attacks in Mogadishu and other parts of the country as the government presses on with an offensive aimed at eradicating terrorists. In August, at least 37 people were killed in an attack by the same group on a busy beach in the capital, prompting demonstrations against the group. Over in Cuba, residents endured the worst day of blackouts this year, as over half of the island suffered power outages due to fuel shortages and infrastructure failures. The state-run National Electric Union Power Company announced the electric generation capacity would be 1,692 megawatts compared to a 3,300 megawatt demand, which left millions without electricity. Private small and medium enterprises were forced to look for alternative solutions to minimize losses and keep providing services to their customers. The spike in outages comes after months of hours-long blackouts across Cuba as decrepit oil-fired power plants, many decades old, fail repeatedly, and the government, saddled by U.S. sanctions, struggles to purchase fuel on the global market. A deepening economic crisis, including dire shortages of food, fuel and medicine, has led to a record-breaking exodus of Cubans from the island, further exacerbating its woes. Next up in sports, Tiafoe and Kachanov move into Almaty Open quarterfinals. Kicking off our sports segment this afternoon, the national women football team is ready to face friendly matches against Saudi Arabia and Laos in Dubai on 23rd and 26th October. Now, its head coach, Celine Al-Zobi, said her squad will pitch new names on the field this time round. Celine said she is happy with the performance and commitment shown by the players, despite the fact that this is their first time participating in the national training camp.
I was happy. Yeah, they showed commitment, they showed discipline, especially the players who were before with us. I think now they are used to be in the national team, so they showed the professionalism that I was looking for, and I'm happy because definitely they can teach the young players.
A total of 24 players were called to participate in the central training camp at Stadium Merdeka since last Wednesday. They will take off this Sunday to face off against Saudi Arabia and Laos. On the foreign front, head coach Luis Enrique will lead Paris Saint-Germain through 2027 with his new contract now extended. Enrique's contract was set to expire at the end of the season, having signed a 2-year deal at the Parc des Princes last year. In his first season at the club, Enrique guided the team to a domestic double and last 4 Champions League finish. While neither PSG or Enrique has yet to officially confirm the contract renewal, the club hierarchy are believed to be pleased with the progress made under the Spaniard as the club shifts from a free spending transfer policy to one which favors developing young homegrown talent. Enrique has also been praised for his handling of a challenging 2023-2024 campaign off the pitch, particularly the tumultuous exit of club record goal scorer Kylian Mbappe. The 54-year-old former striker has previously coached Barcelona, leading the Blaugrana to a historic treble-winning 2014-2015 season, as well as the Spanish national team. Moving on to sports in tennis, top seed Frances Tiafoe survived a tough test from Dan Evans to reach the quarterfinals of the Almaty Open with a 6-7, 7-6, 6-3 win. Evans took the first set in a tiebreak, saving 2 set points before converting one of his own on the 4th attempt. Tiafoe rallied back, however, edging the second set tiebreak before breaking the British veteran 3 times to run away with the third. Awaiting the 26-year-old American is Australia's Alexander Vucic, who downed 8-seeded Frenchman Adrien Manarino 7-6, 6-3. Meanwhile, third seed Karen Kachanov also moved into the quarterfinals, overcoming Finland's Otto Virtanen 7-6, 7-6 in a close contest. The Russian surged to a 5-2 lead in the second set before Virtanen pegged him back to force another tiebreak. Kachanov held his nerve, however, and will face home hopeful Bebet Zukayev in the last 8. The Kazakh's wildcard advanced to his first tour-level quarterfinal after Czech 5th seed Tomáš Machaš was forced to retire from their second round match. Elsewhere, Stefanos Tsitsipas survived a scare against Brazil's Thiago Seyboth-Wild at the European Open in Antwerp and hung on to advance to the quarterfinals with a 7-6, 4-6, 7-5 win. Playing on his preferred surface at the clay court ATP 250 event, the top seed Greek edged the first set in a tie-break, but Seyboth-Wild bounced back in the second with some sensational tennis. On the back foot for much of the third, Tsitsipas fended off 4 break points before converting one of his own, the first faced by Seyboth-Wild all match to seal the win. Tsitsipas will next meet Jiří Lehecka after the fifth seed from the Czech Republic dispatched Daniel Altmaier of Germany 6-4, 6-3. Lehecka was utterly dominant on serve, winning 91% of points behind his opening delivery. In motorsports, 8-time world champion Sébastien Ogier led the Central European Rally after 2 stages as Thierry Neuville was perfectly placed to capture the 2024 world title despite colliding with a bale of straw. Ogier, behind the wheel of a Toyota, had a lead of less than a second over Belgian driver Neuville in a Hyundai on the opening day of a rally which speeds through the Czech Republic, Austria and Germany. Neuville has a 29-point lead in the title race over teammate Ott Tanak, and he needs to outscore the Estonian by at least 2 points this weekend to secure a maiden championship with 1 round to spare. The 36-year-old has finished runner-up 5 times before, but has never lifted the world title. Tanak, the 2019 world champion, was down in 5th, more than 2 seconds behind Neuville. The Belgian suffered a minor scare when he drove into a bale of straw, slightly damaging the front of his car, which hampered him during the 2 stages after the start in Prague.
Saingan 6 negara, Malaysia, Australia, Great Britain, India, Jepun dan New Zealand kini menggegar arena hoki antarabangsa dengan pukulan-pukulan kencang dan bertenaga oleh barisan pemain-pemain remaja bawah 21 tahun. Kejohanan Hoki Antarabangsa Piala Sultan Johor 2024 edisi ke-12 dibawakan sepanjang 19 hingga 26 Oktober hanya di RTM, penyiar rasmi.
And that wraps up World Today. In our top story, Israel claims killing of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar in Gaza. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm Otto Othman. Thanks for watching.